Hello, Canada and the rest of the world. Coming to you from Bauhaus Studios in beautiful downtown Port Credit, it's the Tom and Rick Show for Wednesday, November 25th. On tonight's show, the Freeman Brothers, audio engineer and inventor Johnny Matusiak, music development coordinator for the city of Mississauga, Corey Poole, punk rock politician Andrew Cash, the lead singer of legendary punk rock band Teenage Head, Dave Rave. Also tonight we have Cooking with Carson. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Tom Barlow and Rickford Van Dyke.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Tom and Rick Show. The show changes, it seems, by the day these days.
This is episode 25, people.
We should have an anniversary party.
There
we go. Day 2 of Lockdown 2, and I just want to remind everyone that, and thank everyone at the city who told us that we're able to shoot here, and we have to treat it like a film set, and we have COVID protocols, and in case you're wondering how we're still delivering this from the kitchen, it is because we were told how.
And we might be an essential service. We're a lifeline to our community.
Are we?
Yes, we are.
Okay, yes we are. On the show today, it is a fantastic show. We have Johnny Matusiak, who is a great pro audio engineer for bands like Flock of Seagulls and The Spoons, and he is also an inventor. He invented one of those face shields so that singers can sing.
I use one.
Shows.
I use them at the edge. They're great. They're not invasive, but they're protective and they're government approved.
There you go. We have a legend. This is going to be so exciting.
Oh man!
We have Dave Rave,
can't wait,
lead singer of Teenage Head. He's going to tell us stories about the founding of Teenage Head. He was a founding member, and lots of great stuff there. And they have a movie, a biopic called Picture My Face coming out. Dave Rave. We have Corey Poole from the city of Mississauga. Corey's a neat guy who works for the music industry. He's like a conduit for the music industry for the city of Mississauga. Yep. And very excited about having politician, punk rock singer, songwriter Andrew Cash, who's going to talk about the gig economy and how precarious it is to be a musician anytime in Canada, but particularly during the pandemic.
So cool. Singer of a punk band who probably sang political lyrics, but then is doing something about it.
Is a man of action. So, as I said, day 2 of the lockdown, these are dark times, but I think we're going to get some joy with this episode today.
Totally, and I might want to remind the people, please, around the Port Credit neighborhood or the house or left of here, Ontario, turn left, there's a lot of restaurants around there. Please order local, try to shop local, do what we can to protect our local businesses because we don't want a ghost town. We want to support them as much as you can, or if you can, anything. They're all open for takeout, so please take advantage of that.
Costco, Walmart, Amazon, they do not need your money. We are literally going to lose the businesses. I picture Port Credit as a boarded up neighborhood.
I'm from a town called Brantford, Ontario. You ever drove through there? There's nothing there anymore. Is that what you want? Come on, order local.
So let's order local. We again want to thank the BIA for all they're doing for the local businesses and looking forward to a great show. Thanks to Deb for getting Dave Rave on the show, by the way.
Yes,
good one,
thank you, Deb.
And we will be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As is our custom here, we are trying to introduce our audience to professionals throughout a broad spectrum of the music business. We've had techs and roadies and rock stars on the show. Right now, we have the great privilege of having one of Canada's premier front of house. When you say front of house, that means the guy with the big board. Front of house audio engineers. His name is Johnny Matusiak. Welcome to the show. Glad you could make it. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We are, day 2 of lockdown, so we're doing what we can do. Now, you've been doing this 38 years, international bands. Obviously, there's no Flock of Seagulls tour happening right now because there's no tour anywhere. How have you managed to keep your sanity and keep moving forward in a world where your services are basically not required?
Especially when you own a production company, you're trying to get gigs. How's it been for you?
Not well, not well at all. Like you guys know, we have been thrown out literally overnight. Bang, we're done. Even my last tour with Bonds Amara, we cut it short by 3 shows.
Right.
And then came home to lockdown. We had a whole bunch of stuff planned this year because this is the 40th anniversary for the Spoons. So we had a great package with Flock of Seagulls, Men Without Hats, and the Spoons to tour right across Canada. And obviously that was taken away from us. So I just try and keep busy. We all thought this was only going to last 2 weeks. Yay. A month I can handle. 6 weeks. Yeah, okay, good vacation. 8 weeks, let's go back to work. And that hasn't happened.
But
I've done a little bit of work this summer, so.
But you have been very creative in getting the Spoons or being a part of helping them get work. I've seen like boat things, and tell us about that, because I see you at like different locations all over with just Gord and
Sandy. Yeah.
Sandy. So.
Yeah, so the first one we did obviously was on Tom's roof for Canada Day.
Yes,
Right.
great. Thank you for that.
Yes,
by the
that
way.
was a great day.
Thank you.
The neighbors.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah. With us and Susie McNeil and you guys performing, that was a great day for us. We had been locked down for 4 or 5 months already. So that was awesome.
You guys sounded great.
Thank you. And then we were asked to do a project with a couple people, Brent Jensen being one of them. And it's called the AMP Project, which brings music into smaller communities. So they asked Sandy and Gord, myself, to jump on a riverboat and play to the shoreline for the people that were affected by COVID in Bobcaygeon.
As you're driving by.
Actually, as we were docked.
Right.
Yeah. Oh.
But the night before, I get a phone call going, the boat sank. And I'm like, well, that's not good. What's our second plan? And they said, don't worry, we got you covered.
Wow.
So they had a pontoon boat for us. And so we jumped on a pontoon boat and played in Bobcaygeon up and down. And it was kind of a great emotional event.
Right.
For us.
Well, that was a community that really got hit hard in that first wave.
Very hard.
So
Yeah. Our
that's,
first stop was the first seniors home.
Right.
And we're thinking to ourselves, are they going to know any Spoon songs or?
Sure they will.
But they all got up and were dancing, and it was very good, very cool. And the second stop, and then the last stop at the beach. It was a really cool day.
Well, that's beautiful.
Very proud to be a part of it.
To bring some light to people who needed it. Now, you're a very creative guy, and I've noticed that you've started a new business and you've invented basically a portable barrier for singers. If you can tell us a little bit about how that idea came to you, and did you make prototypes? Did you bang it together? How can people get it?
Sure. Well, I knew the Spoons would be doing some shows this summer because Gord's a very, intellectual person, and we were throwing ideas around. So I knew we'd be gigging. And then when Doug Ford came out with a mandate saying, bands and singers need to be protected and protecting their audiences, plastic barriers, this and that. And I saw some prototypes and I was like, yeah, I'm not putting them behind a shower curtain.
Yeah, exactly.
So I designed the Singer Shield with a clamping system that clamps right to your mic stand, and it protects the audience from your droplets,
Right.
and protects you from the audience. Very inintrusive, professionally built, made right here in Ontario.
Right.
We're proud to say that. And once I built it, a few people, there were a lot of prototypes,
Right.
different sizes, different clamping systems that didn't work. Finally, after 10 different clamps, we found one that worked, is perfect, centers the gravity of the shield on the stand, so it doesn't topple over on you. And like I said, it's very inintrusive, very professional. We went through about 10 pieces before we got it right. Then I got it right, and I showed it to a couple people, and they're like, "Oh, well, can I buy one?" And "Oh, well, can I buy one?" And "Oh, well, can I get 3?" And a bar that,
Right.
I've used them
there's a bar
at the edge.
the edge.
I've used them at the edge,
was
and
first
thank you
one.
for that, because I don't want to be behind that big shield. I think that is perfect once you see it.
Can we
Right,
can
yeah.
we can we have a peek? Show the people what the shield looks
Sure,
like.
obviously. Yeah.
Boom, there it is.
There it is.
I don't know. Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's non-intrusive, and it does balance right. So
Right.
and you can also put your iPad clamp on the microphone stand, which
Right.
is you don't like that. Neither does somebody else. Mark doesn't like that. But you can put it on there, and it's not going to all fall over, which is very well
Right.
done.
Well,
And it's adjustable. This clamp is adjustable. So we found when you're on a live stage, because we're using Lexan, you're actually looking into a mirror
Yeah.
on your side of it. So the clamp is adjustable to a couple degrees back.
right.
So that reflection goes away. Also for sax players,
Right.
so they can bend it back slightly for them. And woodwind players, brass players, it's mandated by the government.
Right.
I've shown it to a few health agencies. We've sold over 150 units so far.
Good for you.
Good for you, man.
And we don't make much of a profit on it. We just want to get players back out there playing safely.
And where can people get information? Maybe they want to pick one up. We have a lot of musicians who watch this show, so I'm sure you're going to get some attention. Where can they connect with you to get one of the shields?
Well, they can go to Facebook at Singer Shields
Okay.
on Facebook and like the page, and there's information there. They can reach out to me directly via that page.
Okay.
I'm the only person on there. It's just my son and I that create them and make them, and we do it every week, and we get them out there to people that need them.
Well,
Awesome.
Thank you very much for coming in today. Thanks for, first of all, being great at your craft. Second of all, being
Thank you.
creative and managing to put great shows on like the one in Bob Cajun. And for providing this little piece of plastic technology
I love it.
that allows singers.
I didn't know
horn
that the
players to do
reflection
that.
thing, Johnny, because I was just staring at my fingers going, oh, that's the chord I'm playing. It helped me, actually,
Great having you, and hope to see you out on a real show in the real world soon.
We'll catch up soon, guys. Be safe.
Great. Thanks a lot. Ladies and
Thanks a
gentlemen,
lot. Thanks for having me on.
we
Thank
will be
you.
right back. Welcome back, my friends. What a treat we have for you right now. A treat for both of us. This is very exciting,
Yes.
Rickford. We have royalty.
We do have
If
royalty.
punk can be referred to in terms of royalty, maybe that's confusing. I don't
Legendary.
know. Legendary. Ladies and gentlemen, we have today with us, with you, the lead singer of Teenage Head, the iconic Canadian punk band, back when the world was London and Toronto and New York City. This was the ground zero of punk rock. Canada's punk rock champions were Teenage Head. Thank you so much for being with us here today in the cold,
Great.
out on the patio. Sorry about that. That is our COVID reality right
It's
now.
a beautiful reality, man.
No.
Look at it. It's fresh.
It's
fresh
fresh.
here. Yeah,
See?
I love it. I love it.
You see, you think the folky singer-songwriter's gonna have that attitude?
Ah, no,
Oh,
they don't have
he's
it,
from
man.
Hamilton, I think, so.
We're
Right, from the
Hamilton.
Hammer.
Everything is
Yes,
tough.
they're tough there.
Well,
Stuff.
so wonderful to have you with us. Will you? Before we catch up with what you're doing right now, because you're an incredibly busy creative force right now.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to the early days when punk was not even a music form at the time?
Yeah.
And how you came to where you are now.
Yeah, well, I always say that punk rock came from glam rock mixed in with stuff like Iggy and the Detroit sound meets glam rock, right?
Right.
So, and then and somewhere in the mixture there, this new brew happened. Like everybody's listening to Iggy, everybody's listening to the Dolls, everybody's listening to Bowie, periods of Bowie, Lou Reed, all that stuff, and all of a sudden by about 75, then 76, you start hearing about the New York scene.
Right.
I remember Gordy and I going to Mohawk College at the time and picking up Rock Scene magazine. And you would see pictures of all these groups in New York. It was brilliant. You didn't know what they sounded like. But it was pictures of the Ramones, Blondie, mixed in with the Dolls. And it just it seemed really inviting. Like, wow, that's got to be good. And
Right.
then pictures of the CBGBs.
Yeah, CBGBs, everybody's
Yeah.
all over each other.
What an
no
amazing
shirts
way
on.
for a music form to translate, though. Was it? I don't know what this is, but it looks cool.
It came, yeah. And so what happened is, I think when I remember, I'll never forget this. Gord coming to my house with the Ramones' first album. It came out. And I said, "How is it?" And he goes, "It's even better than what it looks like." You know what I mean?
Right.
Which was really fantastic. So how could you go wrong? And it was unlike anything I'd ever heard before. When he played Blitzkrieg Bop to me, I went, "That's unlike anything I've heard before." And the way it was played, it was exciting. Why wouldn't you want to join the train?
Right.
Yeah.
I know it really influenced Gord the way he thinks to this day. And of course, Gene, now our new drummer, that was his band he idolized. So it just all fell into place in a nice way. But you had to find a place to play. And in between Hamilton, you're right, and Toronto, something started happening because the music scene at the time was, Supertramp, all that music, which we all know in the 70s, Doobie Brothers.
Right.
Fine music.
Right.
But it didn't fit the vibe. So when people in the club heard that music, it was just still a little too early for
Right.
people's ears. It took a few years for everybody. It took a group of people in New York, in Toronto and New York, were starting to share this music.
And then the London
Of course,
Pistols and all
London
that
was a
came
big
later.
part. Yeah, London was part of it. Hamilton, London,
Yeah.
really, and then eventually Kingston. It just sort of just broke bit by bit.
I remember going to see SNFU in London.
Yes.
Dayglow Abortions in London. In
Yeah.
a small upstairs club. I forget the name of it. But
Yes.
it just what was it called?
The upstairs in
Yeah, really small place. The guy who owned it, he had this hat on, and he was all
my
pumped
God.
out. I was just,
Oh my God.
I was a kid. I was maybe 15, and
Yeah,
sneaking into
yeah.
this bar, But I remember seeing
I
those
remember the
punk
CD
bands.
Lounge, and I remember
Yeah.
the CD Lounge, but remember the
Amazing.
different ones. That
And then
amazing.
what was it like to say, okay, here's this band that I think looks amazing. It's resonating with me. We got to get 4 or 5 guys and do this. How did the original Teenage Head lineup happen?
I think it gradually happened, and because in the documentary it sort of goes like me and Frank knew each other, and he was a drummer at the time, so he invited me to join him to play. So we were doing stuff. That's what 1971, 72, and we did that for a couple of years. And I know Gordy got together with Nick and played. And they had a little thing going on. And Steve, who would be in my chemistry class, was always drawing pictures of rock and roll. Because he was an artist, right?
Right.
He would be drawing amps and beautiful things, and we would always be talking about stuff. So I think he eventually got his bass, and and everything sort of coalesced at that point. There was at that point no set lead singer in Teenage Head. Frank was still playing drums, so different guys would be singing. So I would sing with them. And different people would come in and be a different singer.
And how did he make the leap from drummer to lead singer?
What happened with Frank was eventually he had this sort of charisma about him, and I knew he could sing because he could pick up my guitar and always sing anything, like pop tunes or anything, whatever it was, Beatle tunes. I knew he had a very tuneful voice, so it took. When he got to singer, who knew that he was going to be the next Iggy Pop?
Right.
Mixed in with Lou Reed.
Yes,
that
he was that,
That was
yeah.
an accident. I don't think that was ever planned in his mind or any of our minds. It just happened that there he is, this guy who was behind the drum kit, turned into this other guy who was so magnetic and to me, still to this day, one of the most fun frontmen in his prime.
Right.
That I
Certainly
ever seen,
was.
up
Yeah,
there with Iggy.
I totally agree. Now
Certainly
you mentioned
was.
the movie. There's a major documentary called Picture My Face.
Yes.
Which is the history of Teenage Head.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Douglas Aerosmith came to, I think, to Steve and the guys and said, "Hey, I want to capture the band," and I think he wanted history in it, but he also wanted the mystery behind the band, like what made Teenage Head different from the other bands. And to be honest with you, I was curious too, because
Right.
when you know
When
the
you're in
guys
it.
and when you've grown
Yeah.
up with it, it's just who you are.
Right.
Like, Gord, an altar boy with me, Frank, a guy who I knew in my row 1, Steve, the guy who was pitching me in grade 8. But this combination together. So I was interested too. So it was great because he took the history of the band and then brought it to now, which I don't know how the hell he did it, but what a job Douglas did to make it work.
Right. And when does that film come out?
It's on. It was debuted on TVO about now a little while ago, I guess a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And now, if you want to see it, you can go to TVO YouTube. It's now for people in the rest of the world. Douglas is working on getting distribution in Europe and in America.
Right.
I know that because I know a lot of people over the years, the fans from the West. So that's going to happen. But you can readily access it on
YouTube.
TVO YouTube. TVO YouTube. Just go to it.
Okay,
and
we'll
it's,
put a link up for
and
that.
it's full glory and it's beautiful.
Awesome.
And so far, the reception has been absolutely wonderful.
Well, I saw the trailer and it was fascinating. You forget when you see people like the Ramones talking
Yes.
about your band.
Yes.
That's gotta give you a warm fuzzy.
Yeah.
You know, such an impactful band, and I think for a lot of people, I know for me as a high school kid, it started with Let's Shake.
Yes.
It was sort of like this band that was over in a corner where the
Yeah.
kind of freaky people were now pop stars.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was you know, for me, the moment that punk rock became an accessible music form for a kid who was, you know, in high school.
That's very perceptive because I remember that moment because from 76 to 77, it was coagulating. And then eventually the British got into it. And then in 78, you could feel it now, like it went from being like this crazy, what is it, safety pins in the noses of people, you know, that kind of thing, to, wow, listen to these tunes, listen to these really cool songs. And then all of a sudden, you're right, by 79, you were hearing it on the radio, an AM radio from The Clash, and you were hearing it on FM music. And of course, in this area, CFNY was very, very, the station out of Brampton. I think the people who know it will know what I mean, but
Sure, of
people
course.
who don't know it, NY was the place where police, you heard all the new stuff. It was
Right.
amazing. We were very lucky in Toronto area because Toronto area was a pioneer along with England and New York for this music.
Now, I know you guys both have guitars.
Yeah.
Rick is a big fan. Why don't you give us a little
Yes.
2020 pandemic version of some punk rock?
The last show the Headstones did on the tour that we did.
Yes.
We had Teenage Head were there and it was great, and Gord came out and played with us a couple of times
Yes.
too. But this is one of my favorites of all time, you know, and
Yeah.
a legendary Canadian punk band that's inspired definitely the Headstones and a lot of bands.
Well, you know what? It's an absolute honor because it's like when you see the people who've taken, like, who are inspired by what you've done, and then take it to their own level. It's really the ultimate goal in music, right?
Right.
And you want to continue doing that. That's it. So, shall we do it?
Let's
Shall we
shake.
shake it up, man?
Let's
On
shake it
in
up.
honor of Mr. Frenham and Mr. Lewis and
Yes.
Stevie for the boys, and of course the Headstones. Let's do it for you.
Yeah.
Give me that opener, pass me that beer. Oh, move your ass on out of here. Well, I guess you know I need somebody. Well, you are just too fair and ugly. So let's shake, ooh baby, let's shake. Come on home and let's shake. Move a little closer, let's shake, baby, till I'm gone, yeah. Well, you can dance, can't keep a beat. Well, it's just because you got two left feet. Don't make me run, honey, don't make me blush. You're just that girl I need to touch. So let's shake, ooh baby, let's shake. Come on, little closer, let's shake. Ooh baby, let's shake, baby, to the D now. Well, every time I see you dance, hey, where'd you get the great big pants? Just one ear, just one eye, just one glance, and I could die. Oh, let's shake, ooh, baby, let's shake. Come on home and let's shake. Move a little closer, let's shake, baby, till I'm gone. Hey! goodbye. Nice try. Goodbye. Come on, let's go. Let's shake. Ooh, baby, let's shake. Come on home and let's shake. Ooh, baby, let's shake. Let's shake. Come on, let's shake it up, baby.
Dave Rave, man. Right
That
on,
is some
brother.
real
Yeah.
rock right there. Wow.
That was rockin', man.
That was, you know, you can't fake that.
No, man.
You cannot
Like
fake that.
Fandango.
That is the real
That
thing.
song is fun to play.
Now
that's for sure.
that was like what a great experience to have that in the kitchen here.
In the kitchen, yes.
Now,
Kitchen rock.
as I was saying earlier, you are a very busy man.
Yeah.
You have worked with Danny Lanois.
Mm-hmm.
You currently have a COVID project with Jack from the Trues.
Yeah, little Jackie.
You have Dave Rave and the Governors,
I love that
Minneapolis. Yeah, Minnesota.
which is a band out of Minnesota. Tell us about the new project and what fuels you to keep making it.
Well, you know what? It's one thing I've learned in the U.S. because going there back in the, I went there after Teenage Head in '89 and moved to New York City. It was all by accident. There was a guy who comes from Mississauga here named Gary Piggold, a legendary rock writer, and I finally met him. He was behind a group called the Simply Salsa, who are another legendary Hamilton band. And so me and Gary were in New York. We met all these really cool people. And one thing I learned about the New York scene and about the American way of rock and roll is that, like, I would see, like, Peter Buck would come in with, say, REM. And then after their tour was over, he'd have a side project called Minus Five. And he'd be back in New York playing a smaller place, you know?
Right.
Maybe, and it really inspired me to go, you know, hey, you know, like, keep making music.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's it, you know? So all these guys, like, I remember just seeing the guy who did, there was a band called Jason and the Scorchers. Now, him and the guy from the one that can Keep Your Hands Here, the Georgia Satellite,
Yeah.
they have a project together. I saw how many CDs they had of different groups,
Yeah.
projects that they done. So that's the thing. The main thing is, you know, keep playing because we love music.
Yeah.
Well,
love
I
music.
would
Be
I would
creative.
love to get people to check out Dave Rave and the Governors. How
It's
can
fun
how can they
music, man.
find it? Where would they find it online?
Right now it's at Dave Rave at my Bandcamp, right?
Okay.
And the label called Ray Beat Records. It's out of Minneapolis. Now, what I like about Minneapolis and Minnesota is that it's very similar to our area here. You know, they have people, very eccentric, successful people, like, you know, we've had Mr. Prince and,
Right.
and you know, Mr. Dylan and all those people. But they also have an amazing local scene of musicians who aren't maybe, they're well known in the state, but maybe not worldwide known.
Right.
But they're still amazing, you know, and so it reminds me very much of around here, like, and it's a very musical city, like when I moved there, I was intimidated because of heavy cats, you know, around the Replacements guys and
Right.
Husker Du, you know, Grant, you know, those got hearts.
Legends.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really heavy. It's a great place for music.
Right.
I'm glad to be part of it. I'm glad that I'm allowed in that scene. Let's put it that way. You know,
Well,
it's a great scene. You know?
It was such a great pleasure to have you, ladies and gentlemen. Please check out Picture My Face, the
Yes.
new documentary about Teenage Head. Please check out Dave Rave and the Governors.
The Governors.
Thank you for being the authentic and inventive artist you are, and thanks for making time and coming by here today.
Oh man, it's Tom and Rick show. It's amazing how, you know, right now in these times that we can do this. But you know, I got reminded. I was reading back to Shakespeare and Marlowe, and they were writing all those great plays in the middle of the plague.
Right.
And I went, wow, you know, it's not that different than right now. People kept writing, kept doing stuff, you know, and they were shut down too back then, you know,
Right.
and the people were dying.
Did they have to wear masks into
The
stores?
big, long, pointy ones. I think they
that's
had to wear.
what it was. I think
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Can't get in the car with that.
Yeah, so I was thinking, we're just continuing on with those
Yeah,
cats.
right.
You know, Shakespeare and, you know, and all those writers were still rocking in the middle of a pandemic back then.
Canada's punk rock bard. right here.
Yeah, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been and is the legendary Dave Rave, and we will be right back.
Hey guys, Matt Zaddy here, and you are watching the Tom and Rick Show. Be sure to tune into Saga Music Now on Thursday, November 26th at 7 p.m. on the Mississauga Arts Council's Facebook or YouTube page. It'll be Matt Zaddy with a full band, my only full band show since COVID started, The Mess Around, and One in the Chamber. Hope you guys join us. Cheers!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Tom and Rick Show. I'm very excited about our next guest for several reasons. He, like many of the musicians that we've had on, is a man who wears many hats. One of the hats that Andrew Cash wears is that of federal politicians, where he represented Davenport from 2011 to 2015. I discovered him in the late 80s as a sort of politically conscious punk rock acoustic guitar player, singer, songwriter who wrote a song I absolutely loved called Boomtown. We are very honored to have with us today Andrew Cash. Welcome, Andrew.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Now, Rick and I did a panel the other day for Indie Week where we talked to a doctor who serves musicians, Dr. Chong, very interesting man, and we started to discuss the politics of being a musician in that we have no health protections, no minimum wage protections. And as we were going on this conversation, he said, you really need to connect with Andrew Cash. And he sent me a video that you did in 2017. And I watched it a bunch of times, had it on and took some notes. And I realized everything you were saying in that video about how precarious it is to be a musician and the declining of, or the disappearance of a middle-class musician has been exacerbated by the pandemic. Can you talk about this work that you've been doing for all these years and how you've seen that change since the pandemic?
Well, I mean, obviously the pandemic has uncovered for all to see, you know, all of the ways in which our system has failed not just musicians, but many workers. And I use the term workers to refer to musicians because it's a lot of work to be a musician. So COVID has really shown us how weak the social safety net is for so many people.
Right.
And the work that I've been doing as an MP and even before that and after that has been to really try to focus the public debate we have about work, trying to focus some of that on, hey, there's hundreds of thousands of workers out there who don't have access to, say, for example, parental leave, right, or employment insurance or an extended health and dental benefits package, right? And, you know, when I reflect on the over 20 years that I spent, riding around in a van most of the time, and the clubs we all played and play still, you realize like how completely unprotected the musicians, and not just the musicians, but everyone that supports it, the roadies and the sound techs and the managers and the agents, that everyone's kind of out on a limb in a way. And so when COVID happened, or, it could be anything else, you could be a musician who's had an accident and can't play. But here we have a global pandemic and all the bars and clubs and venues are closed, and the very thing that helps that musicians count on to earn a living, that being bringing people together, and the more the better, that is just taken right off the table. Right. And so absent the CERB, which I think was, I'd like to talk a bit about that, but absent that, there is really nothing. Right. And, you can't even do your side gig working in a bar or working in a restaurant, which I know, many musicians do that too. Sure. So yeah, I guess that's it. Just generally that it's really laid bare the urban economy. One of the reasons that we are so obsessed right now with trying to keep bars and restaurants open is because there's so few stable jobs, especially for young people, and so everyone's working in bars and restaurants, right?
Including the musicians. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, including musicians.
Now,
Yeah.
now.
And if I could just say one more thing, one of the things about COVID that I think might be important down the road is that musicians, can see themselves as part of a larger phenomenon around work, as opposed to musicians being kind of in this island of their own design. There's just a lot of common so-called labor issues that musicians have that many other workers have. And I think COVID might be an opportunity for us to try to make those connections.
Well,
yeah.
Now, you were mentioning the Urban Worker Project as something that includes musicians but is not exclusive to musicians. Where can people get information on that and do some research on it?
Yeah, well, they can go to urbanworker.ca, and that has some of the work that we've done and some of the issues that we've been advocating for. One of the goals was to try to connect people from different work silos, if you will.
Right.
And try to build sort of some common ground between, say, musicians and taxi drivers and renovators and dog walkers and we've done some of that. COVID is really, I will just be honest with you, we've sort of had to put a lot of this on the back burner just due to financing, especially through COVID. But the issues are, ones that are really, I think, really alive at this moment.
Right. Now, before we have to let you go, I'm curious about the point that you've made and you've been making for quite a while, that it seems all other major sectors of the economy, the airline industry, the auto industry, the oil industry, they understand their clout in society and they advocate as an industry. And so right now the airline industry is saying, we've been screwed by the pandemic, we're going to need a major investments. And the restaurants, many of my friends are restaurateurs, they're very organized. The premier comes on and almost every day says, my heart goes out to the small business owners. My heart goes out to the restaurant owners. I've not heard him say, my heart goes out to the musicians who can't play. How do you see us advocating for our industry in the way that other industries successfully advocate for themselves?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think I wouldn't be saying something surprising to you guys if I said, musicians are a bit like herding cats.
Right.
We're not traditionally joiners, except when we want to join a band. But
who's got the van? Right.
I can't see you guys right now, so I don't know how you react.
Everything is still recording, but who's got the van, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that historically, it's been, musicians haven't been, encultured to kind of connect and to be organized necessarily. And also, frankly, we've been ill-served by the structure of the musicians union that is essentially the only outside organization that we often connect to.
Right.
And I think that's been a huge problem. The other issue here is, the music industry, because you used the word industry. I mean, that's a very broad definition and includes, musicians and bands just barely starting out, just barely getting out of the basement to, Bryan Adams and Celine Dion. and all of the industry that supports all of that, right? And so there's a wide disparity in people's issues,
Right.
you know. And I think a lot about not just musicians, but I think about all the road crews, right? Who, you know, all those guys, they're out of work.
Just before we have to go, I just wanted to share with you one stat I saw out of the UK. 7% of successful pop stars in the UK used to go to private school 20 years ago. Now it's 20% that went to private school in the UK, which means you're very wealthy. And I fear, unless you have a rich mom and dad who are gonna fund your career, we're not gonna have the Beatles who are middle class, and we're not gonna have the Stones who are middle class, and it's gonna become a hobbyist industry for the wealthy. And I think the art will suffer.
Well, you're really touching on something there that I think is pretty important, and that's something I've noticed and thought a lot about, especially for myself. I didn't come from anything, so there was no, it was either hit the road, or it was either, it's going to happen, or you're toast. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Andrew, I know we had some technical difficulties. Thanks for being a trooper and for getting through it with us. Please support the Urban Worker Project, and I hope to see you playing music again in the post-pandemic world.
Yeah. Likewise, right back at both of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been and is Andrew Cash, and we will be right back.
Don't buy them at the grocery, 'cause Carlson makes them here. It's enough to make you learn to bake, and it starts right here on the Tom Ricks Show. Oh yeah, on the Tom Ricks Show. Oh yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Carson Freeman and this is Cooking with Carson, and today we're doing a Canadian classic. We are making butter tarts. Butter tarts, I always had them growing up. My grandmother made them, my mother made them, my aunt made them. They were fantastic. And so I recently forayed into the world of making butter tarts. And they're fantastic, yes. It's a great little dessert. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put them into my pastry shells, but first I gotta make the filling. So the filling's not too tricky. What I have is 1 egg. I beat this egg like it owed me money. And I have 1 cup of packed brown sugar. I'm gonna put that in there. Mix that up. And butter. I got a 1/3 cup of melted butter. You need butter in butter tarts, right? And a lot of recipes are gonna call for some vanilla extract, which works perfectly. They're gonna make beautiful butter tarts with vanilla extract, but because we're Canadian, I'm gonna use a little bit of maple syrup. Okay, just about a teaspoon, eyeballing at that there. It's gonna give a really nice flavor, and about 2 tablespoons of milk. Butter tarts classically have different ingredients in them, but most classic would be walnuts, raisins, and today I'm using pecans, which is another classic. Lots of times too, we're just gonna make them, don't mind my stirring, folks. I'm just stirring this. Sometimes we'll just do them without anything in them, but I find that there's just so much sugar and there's so much sweetness in. I wanna balance it off with something that's a little bit healthy, and that is these pecans. But make sure, if you're putting nuts in them, I'm someone who has a peanut allergy, so I wanna make sure that the nuts are visible so that anybody who is eating them can see that they're there. So at least tell your guests. Okay, do I have an assistant back there? Someone can bring me one guy on set today. Bring me my shells, and I'm gonna fill them up, and I'm gonna show you how to put these butter tarts together. So I'm gonna take one little break, and I'll be right back. Okay, my tart shells were delivered. Thank you, Mr. Weller. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna fill them. You're just gonna go one at a time. Fill them about halfway. But you can fill them a little more than halfway, but don't overfill them. There is some egg in this and it will rise up. and what it seems like. Oh, sorry, I forgot to add my pecans. So I'm going to do that now. But yeah, you want to put the pecans in the bottom. It's fine if some of them don't have it. Some people don't like. But these are fine. I mean, put them on the top. They'll sink to the bottom. But usually I just kind of put them in there. And I let everyone see that I tell everyone that these are pecan butter tarts. It also helps fill them out because when you're filling these, when you're putting the filling in there, it's always you have a few left and you feel like you're running out of filling. And every once in a while you will. Watch it happen today because we're filming it on camera. Okay, cool. This guy only has one, and some of these have too many. Yeah, so that's good. And we'll continue so you can watch me fill these up. And I have my oven. It's preheated to 450. And the thing about butter tarts is you're going to, after 8 minutes, you're going to reduce the heat. And this is just different ways to be cooking the filling as well as the tart shells. Okay. So I'm going to finish doing these, then I'll pop them in the oven for 8 minutes. Then I'm going to reduce the heat for 15 to 20 minutes at 350. And then I'll pull them out and we'll see what they look like. We'll take a break. Okay guys, the butter tarts are ready. This is the moment of truth. Let's see. Yeah, and it looks like these have turned out really great. Hot, 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 hot. As you can see, there's one missing here. I told you I told you I was gonna run out of filling. I did that off camera, but I gotta be honest, I didn't have enough. But anyways, these smell fantastic. They look great, but I can't eat them right now. I'm gonna wait for them to cool down for a bit. But anyways, fantastic butter tarts. Some of you saw my pastry recipe on here. Just hit me up if you need that. And just add the filling, got yourself some butter tarts. And this recipe is very close to pecan pie. If you can make this, you can do that as well. Have a fantastic week. Thanks for watching the Tom and Rick Show.
Welcome back, my friends. I have with us here today, we are all together in the universe. These are the Freeman brothers, Curtis and Carson Freeman. Welcome to the show. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Thanks for having us.
Now, of course, the audience knows Carson as a saxophone player and the chef of the show. Tell us a little bit about your brother. You've obviously known him a long time.
Yeah, this is the first person I ever met, my brother Curtis. And Curtis is a bass player. You might have heard him playing in Port Credit. One thing we have in common amongst the many things is we've both played with Tom and Rick. So
there you go. Yes, we have. And of course, Deadbeats, we used to see all the time.
Yeah.
And you play with one of Canadian Greeks. Is it a Greek Canadians? Superstar Pavlo.
Yeah.
And where you get
still playing with them too.
Really? You guys, I saw you just did a gig in Vegas or something like that?
Yeah, that was kind of neat and kind of crazy, but just as a musician, leaving the country and just doing what we do just felt so normal. I feel like I broke out and had a little adventure and came back, and even through the self-isolating, it was worth it. I don't mean that in a reckless way, but it just you work out a niche and you're
right
in the world what you do, and it just felt good to do that.
And I suppose quarantining for 2 weeks is not that bad when the world is locked down. Aren't we all in quarantine right now, basically, right?
Yeah.
Now, guys, you have very exciting news in that you have both been professional musicians your entire adult lives, but you've never made an album together. And tell us about why now, and tell us about this new album.
Well, we made an album. It's a Christmas album called the Freeman Brothers Merry Little Christmas Album. And we've talked about doing projects for years, and this really was Curtis's doing. He said, why don't we do an album? We don't necessarily have the money, but we do have the time.
Right.
We have lots of time for once. Because, I have 3 kids, and he's touring a lot, and we're always playing music. But we're always playing other people's music. And although we've loved being sidemen all these years, we always wanted to do our own project. And one of the last concerts we did, we worked on a lot of Christmas shows in December. And we thought, you know what, we got a lot of that material in the bag. Why don't we work on those arrangements, finesse them a little bit? And the whole project from start to finish was a lot of fun. And we did it within under 2 months. it's kind of neat playing songs like "It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year" in September.
It's a pretty good time of the year.
Yeah. But, I say I do more decomposing than composing my music. I never think it's good enough. But this project, we really love like the whole process. We're really happy with the end results. And I kind of wanted to put that, a lot of people celebrate Christmas no matter what their religious background is. And it means a lot to many different people. And we showcased that on the album. We wanted to bring a lot of joy, and we wanted to express that through our music. So when people listen to it, they can hear the fun that we're having while we made them.
And everyone's got their favorite Christmas song. How did you go about picking of the hundreds of great Christmas songs? How did you narrow it down? Is it 10 songs on the album?
There's 12. Just like
you guys are ambitious.
Only has 12 days, right? So
right.
And it wasn't really hard to like settle on those songs. It was like, okay, once we get to 12, we just capped it there, and we thought that's good. But we did discuss a couple times that we could already do another Christmas album if we want, like another one, because that's a great song. That's a great song. But it's easy to play and promote, and we have no problem saying, grab this album because you'll like it, enjoy it, because they're just likable, enjoyable songs, and they bring back good memories. Or if not, the next track will. So.
Well, I think it's exciting that you have this new project at this time, and as we've heard, a bunch of the conversations are get takeout from local restaurants, Christmas shop from local places. Don't go to Amazon. Don't get it from Amazon. Don't go to the big box stores. Let's support local. I think this is an amazing opportunity for people to not get the Kenny G Christmas album. Kenny G does not need anyone else to buy his Christmas album. We can get something that's as good as, or let's face it, probably way better, and keep it local. So if someone is saying, yes, I first of all love Christmas music, I want some fresh Christmas music, how can they find you guys, and how can they make sure they have this album playing while they're putting up the tree or wrapping the presents?
Well, we have a lot of friends just through the show, because Curtis lived in Port Credit for a while, and I've been living there for about 10 years now. We have a lot of friends that support local music, and they follow us on Facebook. So if you're friends with us on Facebook, you can always just private message us, or you can follow the Freeman Brothers Band on Facebook. Maybe Les could put those links up. And we do curbside pickup. We could throw them in the mail. We could mask up, and
no contact delivery.
Right.
But it is interesting though. People do want physical CDs. We actually just started advertising them, and we will sell out of them. And we only printed a few hundred of them, but it does feel like you're selling pies out of your kitchen when you sell CDs now.
Right. It's a thing, right?
I feel like I made a bunch of bird feeders and I'm trying to sell them at the mall. But there is something cool about having like a physical copy of something. And it is on all platforms, but the best way to support us would be to buy a copy from us or buy a digital download from us. But if you're getting it on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, just play it around the house, play it in the car. That's totally fine. We just want to spread it around, and we just want you guys to, it's a gift from us to you. And we had a great time making it. I think we captured that on the,
and one thing to mention too, it's all instrumental music. We have a good mixture of Santa and Jesus, and we even have
both of the main characters are
featured. They do a collaboration on the album. Yeah.
Well, just before we go, guys, two twin brothers making a Christmas album. Can you give us one anecdote, one story from the recording process that can sort of put us in the moment, in the creative moment with you when you were making the record?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, the moment for me was kind of when it was done, and Carson's like, wow, no offense, but I thought we would butt heads a lot on this album, but no, there was none of that. And I think just when you're doing other people's songs, you just want to do a service to them. And we're used to playing in other people's bands and being sidemen, so we know how to. It's kind of weird when you take the reins and do your own thing, but we know each other's playing and style, and we just got out of the way, and just there's enough Curtis on the album to be happy, and there's enough Carson on the album to be happy, and we just spread it around.
Well, I'm very excited to hear it, as I'm sure the audience is very excited to hear it. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. Can you hold up the CD one more time so people know what they're getting? There it is. Merry Little Christmas album with the Freeman Brothers. Make sure you hit them up on Facebook or wherever you can find them and support local talent. Merry Christmas to you guys. It's the first time I've said it all year, and we will be right back.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we live in a great musical community here. We've had the Mississauga Arts Council on. We've had our city councilor on, you know, Michael Douglas, Stephen Dasco. There is a team behind the scenes trying to make our music community better. One of the members of that team is Corey Poole, and he is the music development coordinator for the city of Mississauga. Welcome. Thanks for taking time to be with us here today, Corey. And could you please tell us a little bit about what the music development coordinator does?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Hello, Tom and Rick. Hello, everybody watching.
Hello.
The story of the music development coordinator in the city really starts in 2016 with the adoption of Mississauga's creative industry strategy. So that was a strategy that was approved and adopted by council. And within that strategy, recommended to open a music office at the city, which landed in our culture division, and also to develop a strategy to support and grow the music sector specifically. So the music development coordinator, that's myself, was hired in 2019. And over the past year and a half, in the culture division, we've been working on a music strategy for the city. So, you know, what that music strategy proposes to do is to support and grow the sector through things like, you know, increasing the number of live music events, bringing in a greater number of music festivals, attracting investment to Mississauga's music scene from outside the city and also from within the city, and, you know, removing any barriers that are in place that perhaps potentially stand in the way of artists' careers or local music businesses expanding or succeeding.
Well, I think it's very interesting because, and this is what we're going to talk about next, is the music strategy survey, and that what you guys are not doing, which I think is great, is you're not just taking stabs at the dark and going, well, I bet musicians would like this. Is that you've started an initiative which is a survey for people who go and see music, consume music, and people who create music, so that you can get actual answers and have practical paths forward to support the industry. Can you tell us about this survey?
Absolutely. So, you know, the strategy is being developed by our team in the culture division, but I like to think also by the community, because this feedback is so important. And of course, we know that the music community and the music sector is made up of so many different parts, you know, from artists to music venues, managers, recording studios, labels, retailers, educators, the list goes on, right? And all these parts of the music ecosystem work in concert. So we're looking at ways to, you know, help sort of elevate the whole sector. But to do that, we need to hear from people in all different parts of those sectors, and of course from residents as well, who, you know, I like to think of our all music fans, and the work that we're doing would, you know, help benefit and help bring more music events to everyone in the city, not just those in the music community.
Now, we have a lot of young up-and-coming artists who appear on the show and watch the show. Let's say they're in a jam, they're confused about how the business works, they don't know how to release a demo, they don't know what a record company does. What kind of services are available in terms of education for the emerging artists?
Yeah, we're running the second version right now of a program I think is really interesting, and we're working in partnership with the Mississauga Business Enterprise Center. This program called Starter Company Plus for Music. So it's an adaptation of their business skills development program for small businesses. And we've worked over the last 2 sessions with Metalworks as well to bring in some of the instructors from their music business diploma program to help you know, work with not just artists, but anyone who's operating a music business in Mississauga and looking to launch or expand or grow their business, and offer them that business skills training in combination with some music industry mentorship, and also a small grant component to the program of up to $2,000 for participants. Now, this round we focused on sort of COVID support as well, by giving priority acceptance to the program to folks who were looking to adapt their business to operate, you know, in the short term or even moving forward, sort of as we deal with this pandemic.
Well, that was sort of leading into my next question. You know, Rick and I are both professional musicians, both play live a lot, and it seems like we do a couple of weeks of gigs, and then the province gives us a different mandate. Now those gigs are off. Now Rick's playing on a rooftop out west somewhere.
Yeah.
It's evolving so quickly and changing so quickly. How are you able to create programming or create? You talked about more live venues and more live opportunities when everything is such a state of flux.
Well, I suppose we're operating under that same the same circumstances as everyone else, and trying to provide support to that music community while doing so. I mean, one example would be with our summer concert series, which usually takes place in Streetsville and Port Credit Memorial Park. This year we pivoted to a film series that we did at Meadowvale Theatre with the help of our Celebration Square technical team, so we could maintain those paid performance opportunities for artists, and also those musical experience for residents as well.
I mean, going forward, is there any kind of plan to maybe educate musicians who they're not very tech savvy, but it seems to be, if we can get some education on streaming, better sound quality, better camera shots, stuff like that. Is there something like that in any of the programs?
Well, I would absolutely love to do that. And I think that's sort of the type of feedback that we need in developing the strategy, so we know what it is that the community is looking for specifically, and then can offer those types of programs, whether through workshops or, right now they might have to be webinars, but in the future, sort of hands-on programs as well.
Right. It's such an interesting and difficult, the music business was already a very difficult game due to the fact that there's no money from streaming. I think I looked it up for an interview I did a few days ago. I think it's 0.00043 cents per stream. So I know that sometimes a young person will come up to me and say, how do I get into the music business, and how can I quit my job at Starbucks and become a full-time musician? And my honest answer to them is you can't. That there's no middle-class musician anymore because the revenue stream's out there. These are big structural problems. What can you guys do at the municipal level to try to say, what we need to create a musical middle class, or only rich people are going to be able to make music?
Yeah, I think part of that is supporting professional development opportunities, giving people all the tools they need to succeed in that business, and working with local partners who are doing that. I used Metalworks as an example earlier. We have a world-class performing production facility and music industry training facility right here in Mississauga. So I would say, leveraging the infrastructure that we have to help support the local community, whether it's finding new ways to provide that support to underrepresented people who might not usually have access to it, or offering that programming for free, or some of it, educational programming through the city, so that anyone who's interested might have an opportunity to get involved.
Well, that sounds great. So, Corey, before we have to let you go, what do you think, once again, there's a struggling artist, maybe they were going to put an album out, they couldn't. First of all, how do they find you so that they can connect to you and ask questions? And what's sort of your advice now going forward for people in the music community in Mississauga?
Yeah, so first of all, if anybody wants to get in touch, my email is corey.poole@mississauga.ca, and I'll do whatever I can. My role is as an advocate and a conduit at the city for the music community to navigate City Hall. So if anybody is interested in putting on an event or festival, or just navigating the music business in general, I'm here as a resource for the music community. Please don't hesitate to get in touch. I hope that the music strategy that we'll be creating with the feedback from the community will help to support careers, and especially to support young people looking to get involved and looking to start a career in music. One thing I'll add about this is it's really important for the city to take on this project. I think we all know the cultural benefits that music provides, bringing people together, connecting communities across language and cultural barriers perhaps, and supporting a positive impact on mental health and wellness. But there's a huge economic reason to support the music sector too. I mean, we know, despite the challenges that are happening right now with COVID-19, the music sector is and can be a big job creator. A music sector, can really attract and keep skilled workers in a city when you have that vibrant music scene. It's been shown to do that. And also can bring increased tourism activity and spending in the local economy. So we have this beautiful tandem of the economic benefits and the cultural benefits of music. And that's what we're really hoping to help amplify here and support anyone who wants to, navigate their way through that sector and be part of that music community.
Well, I think it's such a great point, because so often the economic benefits of the music business are not announced enough to the public. And it is always, well, that's nice that we can do that, but it's not real business. So I'm glad that you're advocating, that you're doing the work you're doing. Please check out that survey. We'll put a link to the survey, because people like Corey cannot help us unless we tell them the kind of help we're looking for. So thank you very much for all the work you're doing, and to the City of Mississauga for having someone as passionate as yourself working on behalf of musicians. Ladies and gentlemen,
thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Corey Poole with an E, and we will be right back.
What can we do in times of uncertainty?
We stay strong.
Together. We support. We create.
And we adapt.
Port Credit Main Street is a community.
Local places to gather.
We are your community's small businesses.
Telling our story of resilience and pride.
We are business owners.
Job makers.
Entrepreneurs.
The signs on our shop doors invite you into our dreams.
The ones that we built from scratch.
Behind each business is a face.
A family.
This is our story. This
is Port Credit.
Businesses are people.
People who need your support now
more than ever.
Les!